Great, let's look at moving clips through time. That's just this arrow tool right here, selection tool. You can click on the clip and drag it left or right, and that is moving it through time. And you'll see that the audio comes with it because this audio was recorded with the video, and so these two files are linked in Premiere's eyes. So if I just click on the audio, you'll see the video also selects. Or if I click on the video, you'll see the audio also selects. It's also important to note that this blue line here, this is our playhead. So if I were to hit play, that's where we would start playing from. But that's what shows up here in the program viewer. So if I move this, so the playhead is no longer in that clip, you see we're not looking at anything now. Now the playhead is just showing us this blank spot. So if I scrub through here, you can see the image updates as I move the playhead. Another quick thing we could do is called a trim. So if you hover the cursor over the end of a clip or the beginning of a clip, you see that the cursor turns into like a bracket with an arrow. If you click and hold down, you can drag, and you get a little preview of where that edit point is. You can drag and trim the beginning or the end of the clip. This is good like if you've got some camera shake from hitting the record button. Another simple edit is the razor blade tool. So the razor tool, yeah, it's reminiscent to how movies were edited in the past with like just a razor blade cutting through celluloid film. So say there's a point somewhere along here where I want to make an edit. Then I would move my playhead to that point, hover over it with the razor tool, and then click. And now I've cut these two clips. And if I switch back to the arrow tool, the selection tool, I can click and drag them independent of each other. Now Premiere is a non-destructive editor, so I can actually just hover over the end of the clip and use the trim tool to just bring that content right back. So now I actually have two iterations of the tail end of this clip. If I want to get rid of something, I can just click on it and then hit delete or backspace on the keyboard. So that means that clip no longer, or that iteration of the clip no longer exists in the timeline. However, it's still here in my footage window. So if I want to bring more content into my timeline, there's a couple of ways that we can do it. One way is I can just click and drag from my footage bin and drop it into my timeline. Plunk. There it is. Oh, there's the cat. And then here, you can decide to, so see there's like a little bit of like focus pulse right at the beginning of this clip as the camera tries to focus on the cat's tail. I want to trim that out. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit just with regular old plus. Wait for that to settle, and then I'm going to trim that. Another way that we could bring content into our timeline, instead of just dragging it, is if we double click on it in our project tab, it actually opens in the source viewer here. So I'm going to close this real quick, just to get out of the way. So now, like I said, this program viewer is showing what the playhead is on in the timeline, but the source viewer shows just the raw unedited clips. So I can scrub through that. This is just a close-up of a bowl of rice. Fantastic content I've got going on. And instead of trimming down to the content that I want in the timeline window, I can actually just sort of trim down the clip to the content that I want here in the source viewer. So I want to settle right here where I get real close to this bowl of rice. I want this to be the start of what I start using. And in Premiere, that is called an in point. So if you hover over these little brackets, you can see that you can mark in, or you can mark out the end of what you want to use. So I can do this manually by clicking on this thing to mark the in point. Or if you hover over it, there's a little I in parentheses, and in this one there's an O in parentheses. Those are just the keyboard shortcuts. So I will mark the in, and that's long enough for a bowl of rice. So I'm going to press O on the keyboard. That marks the out point. And then I have a couple of options. I can click and drag the little film strip icon down into my timeline, and that'll bring only the video. Or I can do the little waveform icon, and that will bring only the audio. Or if I want the video and audio together, which is usually the case, then I'll just click up here and drag down here and drop it off in the timeline. And I don't want there to be this blank gap between the clips, so I'm just going to click and drag and put them adjacent to each other. Another thing that you might have to do is separate the audio from the video. So normally if you film something with your phone or a camera, it's going to capture some audio, and then when you import that into Premiere, the video and the audio are going to be linked together. We sort of talked about this earlier, where if you click on the video, the audio selects, or if you click on the audio, the video selects. And if you click and move, it moves them together. That way the audio never falls out of sync with the video. However, there will be times where you need to separate the audio from the video. And so to do that, the fastest way would be to right click or control click, and then go down to Unlink. Now these two are no longer linked together. You got to be careful because it's very easy to move them out of sync then. They're now out of sync. But if that's, if you need to separate video and audio, you totally can. Now, if I just wanted to get rid of all this audio, I could select it and hit backspace or delete on the keyboard. And I have just the video.